Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review and reaction to Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 17, guest starring John Noble. I'm not kidding. That is the actual episode title. The actual episode title is called Guest Starring John Noble. And which he does, and in a very meta way, which I'll get into in a little bit. So you were misled by the trailers into thinking, as it turns out, yeah, Gorilla Grodd was sent back to 1979 to kill Barack Obama back when he was still in college. It turns out, Mullis just needs one more, according to Nora, who's become more and more overtaken by Mullis's power. He just needs one more anachronism as just as that final nudge to break the timeline enough to free him, and take his true form, which it starts to happen because of Grodd's attempt to try to nearly kills Barack Obama, but they're alerted to the anachronism as well as Amaya taking the ship to 1992 to stop a village from being destroyed. Um, and I guess it was kind of anticlimactic because it's like they end up resolving the whole issue in like within the first 5 minutes of the episode. Even though like yeah, even though Mick was still wearing his fire totem, he still brought his heat gun and was using that to save Barack, who they kept as Rip kept insisting they called Barry, and it kept as like one of the jokes of the episode. So at first they thought it's like, like the Flash can handle it. The Flash is always in trouble. It's kind of part of the job. Which Wally interjects and he's like, no, not that Barry. But Ray's able to shrink him and put him inside a jar, and wipe Barack Obama's mind and prevent that anachronism. But then Nate and Wally have to go to 1992 to stop Amaya from changing the timeline. Wally is completely against the idea of the timeline being changed. Nate goes along with it just for Amaya's sake, because, like they point out, he's completely whipped, and you find out stuff like that originally Amaya's daughter was supposed to inherit the spirit totem, but didn't, and that because she didn't have the totem, it's the reason why Amaya was ended up getting killed, and the village was destroyed, and why Kawasa originally gets the totem, and then so basically Amaya thinks like the younger one thinks she can talk to her future daughter about taking on the totem to protect the village, that they'll be able to that she'll be able to save her family and stop. And of course, when realizing that Damien's going to, it's basically a very like Raven Trigon relationship. Raven being, with Raven comic books, Raven being used as supposed to be like almost like a means for was being sired as a means for her dad to like enter the real world at the expense of her own life. A similar thing's going to happen with Mullis at Nora's expense, and so Damien feels like that's the last straw. He comes with the guy saying that he's willing to go along with his daughter's wishes and be sacrificed, even though he obviously goes and strikes up an alliance with the Legends and hands over the water totem. So now the Legends have all 6 totems to try to take down Mullis, and this is probably the second episode in a row where I probably it's like no, probably the second show for the second night in a row, second consecutive night where it's like the main villain one of the main villains who ends up being a complete sociopath ends up being humanized, and I actually pity for really feeling really pity for, and Negan on Walking Dead, Negan on Walking Dead, Damien Dark even, and Damien Dark here. Of course, Sarah begrudgingly hates the idea of working with Damien because sister's killer, and she says that because of everything going on with Ava, with her identity crisis and finding out she's a clone, and and Rip still trying to lying about it. She decides, like, fine, you know what, I gotta go somewhere and go talk to someone and get some air when the whole world's falling apart. Hilariously, she goes back to go talk to Barack Obama in his dorm room, and they have just like a whole casual conversation about everything that's going on. Sarah's inner turmoil, and I love this. Is the one reason why I love this show. How it's so unapologetically goofy to the point where it's like it just completely avoids the trope where it's just like whereas like Barack would be like freaking out about all this stuff being told about clones and time travel and the talking apes, but it's like he's not like totally. He's not. You would think he'd be more freaked out. He's not as freaked out about the whole ape telepathic ape trying to kill him as one would expect, and he's not ready to necessarily crap his pants, but it was like he's still kind of like, what the hell? Hell, everything else they're talking to Sarah, like they're just having like a normal conversation, like this whole like time travel, clones, demons trying to free themselves, take over the planet, no big deal. And she validated Sarah by saying, how she's feeling about is very human, and that, the Time Bureau is not equipped to maybe handle Damien Dark, and that maybe it takes an orthodox approach to dealing with this. And she smiles and makes some meta and says something I think which any sensible person has in their minds. I've missed you, before wiping his mind and going back to the ship and deciding that they're going to just let Amaya. As part of their plan is, one, they hear Rory watching Lord of the Rings, where John Noble appeared in Return of the King. So Ray actually goes back in time to the set of New Zealand when they were making the trilogy, knocks on Noble's door and tries to tell him, like, oh, by the way, Peter Jackson, he had some rewrites. He wanted you to practice running through some lines with me. And he acts as like somebody who's working on set, and he basically records all the dialogue of John Noble, and then so Ray carries out the plan to fly into Nora's ear, and make the recording of John Noble sounding like Mollis, the trick Nora into thinking Mollis is communicating with her in order to get her onto the ship and trap her inside of that little spirit circle thing that John tried in the other episode. Yeah, so you get all that. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like it's so meta and crazy and just what this show does best. It's impressive how much how they're able to, like, it's not like an easy feat for shows to pull off the level of campiness that this show does, and I don't think this show which is why I feel like this is probably one of the most underrated shows on TV and doesn't get enough credit. And the other step was like trying to use like all six. They decided to let Amaya carry out the anachronism of saving her village because they think once Mollis is free that they'll be able to use that. Okay, they'll be able to use combine the powers of the six totems to kill him once and for all. Damien Dark wooing the Death Totem, Nate Earth, Ray Water, McFire, Amaya Wind, and of course Amaya the Spirit Totem. And Damien Dark agrees to go through with it because we basically have Maul is taunting him and saying is that it's like, oh, your daughter can't be saved. Like I'm taking over. Like she's given over to his own free will. But then she sees this. Then Dark sees the spirit of Nora communicating with him. Briefly through. I guess just use. It's basically just using the. She's able to see him as a result of the through the power of the death totem. So now he's having second thoughts about the whole thing. And it basically leads to basically it's Damien Dark that's like spilling out his just like having second, it just pretty much first he was like figure like, oh, his daughter's gone and that the reason why Sarah should stop learn to forgive herself, especially forgive herself because he was trying to tell Damien that it's like I didn't love anybody enough to realize, what kind of pain I was causing, including killing Laurel. And he said he'd take it all back at that point, which kind of shocked to hear from him. And then he was telling Sarah that she should take her own advice, like going from from an assassin to a captain should be like a pretty big step up, and she didn't kill it, and she ultimately didn't kill her team, and should learn to forgive herself because of the power of love, which is why she tries to profess her love to Ava when she doesn't go along with the plan of letting Dark wear the death totem, or their idea that, oh, turning on a friend is more stomach churning than not free than basically she wants to let Mullis free so they can actually use the 6 totems to kill him once and for all, and that's not as stomach churning as like trying to turn against a friend, which kind of twisted logic, but it's why it's but the thing is it's not like Ava still feels like she has such a loss of identity because of this whole like clone revelation, and Rip revealing to her that she's like the 12th clone that he plucked from 2213 to join the Bureau, which causes her to just like when Rip decides to go along with the Legends plan, she basically kicks him out of the Bureau, kicks him out of the Bureau, and also kind of there's a bit of a take that for Rip's manipulations, and it just basically just leaves the ship. And just when they're going to go along with the plan of Amaya's plan, they find out that, release Mullis, have her trapped in the circle and chained up while still in Nora's body. Damien Dark ends up releasing Grodd and sticking him on Zambezi, and basically ends up destroying the village just so history will play his course, because he doesn't want to lose his last shot of saving Nora. And so, of course, there's a huge battle that ensues between the Legends and Dark. But in the midst of all the chaos, Nate's able to use the Earth Totem to fend off Grodd when he gets the upper hand against Amaya's daughter, and old Amaya remembers Nathaniel or Nate, because like originally when old Amaya saw Nate, like her memory was presumably wiped of her time with the Legends just to protect history, and so she wouldn't be conflicted about trying to save her village or mess with the timeline. But in the end, it seems like history was just, because the village was saved, but Dark turned against them. Like history. It's just like basically Mullis just goes free, and now we have this. And like I said, the siege, and I guess presumably kills Nora in the process. So. And the CGI on it does not look that impressive. It's clear that they spent more money on rendering Grodd than they did rendering Mollis, and it just kind of ends on a cliffhanger. Like, so now it seems like the season finale, it's like they had to travel to the Wild West and fend off an army of like the Roman army as well as pirates, and with Jonah Hex, and somehow they got to. I don't know how that's going to factor into stopping Mollis at this point, because I don't know if they really need to deal with another anachronism. How many, like, they need to like cram that into the season finale. I just hope there's not going to be like too much going on. That'll just be over plotted. But yeah, there's actually a really strong episode of the show, and actually a great build up to, it played to the strengths of the show, and a really great build up to the finale. But anyway, guys, what are your predictions for the finale? I mean, it's kind of obvious Amaya's probably won't be sticking around, but do you think Nate's going to be leaving too? Do you think Jack's going to be coming back permanently? You're excited to see Constantine. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.